Good morning. How is everyone doing? Welcome to the training course on mastering cyber defense with Axiom's XDR 360. Yeah, as you know, this course duration, total duration is 4 hours, 7 30 minutes quick sessions, just like today. And then there's a quiz at the end. And today we are at the second session, which is about securing Microsoft 365 environments. Yeah, so in this session, we are going to dig deeper into more visibility into Microsoft 365. Uh, and then we are going to go into the console and look some real-time logs and data. This is our trusty overall architecture. It's always good to see what is happening. Like so, today the focus is SaaS. SaaS is over here, right? So what was happening is we want to have a holistic view across everything, like users, endpoints, devices, identity, cloud, web, SaaS, basically everything, and the locations, like the with the cyber gateways, either firewall replacement. We want to collect data from everywhere. Like it's easy when I put an agent on the endpoint. And I can configure the endpoint to send me the telemetry. So I'll get like from the endpoints. That's how most of the EDRs work. Like so, you deploy the agent on the endpoint and you collect all the data. It comes into your backends, and that's where the data is, right? And with the cyber gateways at locations, cyber gateways can also serve as SIEM sensors, as we discussed in the last course. So they can forward the syslog and NetFlow from like your switches, servers, Wi-Fi access point, firewalls, like so they help us to get data like into the XDR 360 SIEM or backends, right? But how you get data from SaaS like Microsoft 365? There's no agent. I cannot put an agent there. Like how? But I want that data because now with the Microsoft 365, everything is happening in the cloud. Like it's not that much. Of course, you see that at the endpoints, but it's really happening in the cloud. How I get logs and events from there. Yeah, again, in the big picture of schemes, this is where my SaaS is. Yeah, I can get data by putting endpoint agent, network we discussed, endpoint we discussed, third parties also, as we discussed, like at least the firewall switches, servers, and Wi-Fi access points at a location. Cyber gateway can forward the data. Like, but the two type of things, SaaS, and when we are going to cover the cloud security as well, we are going to get data in a different way because we cannot put an agent like in Microsoft 365 or Salesforce or in the public cloud. And we are going to get that through APIs. So a lot of the focus today will be how we get that data and how we do those integrations. The idea is I'm not now looking at SaaS or Microsoft 365 in a silo, right? Okay, if in a silo, I can get those logs. Maybe I can log into my Microsoft 365 portal. In some cases, I can see some of the logs there as well. Like the idea is to bring this to XDR 360 because there you are going to correlate these with the alerts and events from the endpoints, from the network, from the user's identity, and you are going to enrich that data with threat intelligence and so on. So make it a lot more powerful. Right? So for example, Microsoft 365 in the SaaS, we detect there was a phishing email or there was a malware got downloaded, right? But there might be a false positive. But if we have the evidence from the network and the endpoint, like every security control is alerting that. I mean, they are doing it in different ways, like network has a different ways, like the URL filtering and those type of things. But then you have a much more powerful solution to identify those threats and so on. Okay, so the again idea is XDR engine here, and the vision is most of the action we will take automated, but some of the things will require the MDR or SOC and human intervention to remediate and so on. And the goal, the vision with XDR 360 is that remediation is automated as much as possible. So you can see this path also with Axiom. It's not only like when we have the network agent unified SASE XDR agent running on the endpoints, we can take a lot of the actions at the endpoint. We can delete the malicious files, right? We can isolate the host, like block all network traffic so that it's only accessible through XM console and so on. So you have a lot of the enforcements that you can do with this. Now let's focus on, so this is my SaaS, how I get data from my SaaS, and we are using Microsoft 365 as an example, but it's the same for Salesforce or any other SaaS application or G Suite, like the Google equivalent of that Microsoft 365. So this is how it is going to happen. It's going to happen through API, but it is good to get an understanding of this. And we are going to review the OAuth today, token, and all those things, so that you get an understanding, because there are risks in doing these things, and so we need to do it the right way, right? So, and we want to pull now the logs from the Microsoft 365 cloud, right? No endpoints. So this will work even if you lose access to the endpoints or there's no agent on the endpoints, because all your activity is logged by Microsoft, and we can pull all the activity from there. When you access an email, it is logged in there. You access this email from this location, and all the very, very detailed information is available. So we are going to pull that. The type of things we are going to pull is, for example, audit Azure Active Directory logs, like you about the identity, which users are doing what. If you add a user in Azure AD, you delete a user, what is happening, like your privilege and all those type of things, like your groups association. We are going to pull that data. And we are going to pull the audit exchange, which is all about the email activity and your calendar and the email activity, right? And then order SharePoint is really like all your Word and PowerPoint, Excel, and all those things. So we are going to pull that data and events as well. Yeah, order general is everything that's not included in others. Like there are some specific type of things you pull, and then DLP all, everything related with the data loss preventions or indications of that. Like, so if there's a PII, like personally identifiable information and so on, that will be logged, and we can pull that. And why we are listing these things over here, because so when I'm going to do this integration with Microsoft 365, yeah, I'm not going to request access to everything, because this is your client's tenant. Like, why would you give Axiom a total control over that, right? We just want the things that we need, the logs and events. So when I'm going to go there, this API, you will see when we are going to create that, I'm going to identify these scopes, like, okay, give Axiom access for these certain things, pull these logs. So that is, yeah, it's the only the things that XDR 360 needs. We pull those, not the other things. So this is the idea. So we are going to use Microsoft 365 Management API to pull this information from Microsoft 365 into XDR 360. Once it's in XDR 360, like it's in the data lake, and then we can do all the nice things like about the XDR 360 security controls. Before we jump into like do this integration, a review of OAuth, right? And maybe you hear most of the modern things, like it started with OAuth 1.0, but now everything is 2.0. You hear about OpenID Connect and all that, tokens getting compromised and all those things, like how this whole thing works, right? So we can take like today's as example, but you will create these OAuth applications for many different things, even like your user authentication and so on. But today, what we are going to create a client which is not going to be a user. So this will be on the Axiom side. And server in this case will be Microsoft 365 Cloud, right? I want to pull those logs and events from there, right? But I need certain permissions. Like I need how I tell Microsoft 365, give me access to these logs and everything. Like that's where we are going to register an app. So the client app, XDR 360 in Microsoft 365. We are going to register it. We are going to create unique credentials for it. And we are going to define the scopes. Scopes are really the type of things I want. So when I register that app, I say, okay, this app with these credentials can get access to these, and these things, right? And the way it is going to happen is, so once we create that app, like we are going to then bring those credentials, we are going to enter on the Axiom side. So now Axiom has that app information, the credentials, client ID and client secret, because I'm creating a client and app. It has a ID and a secret, and it has certain scopes associated with that. Like now I'm going to go to the OAuth server, to Microsoft authentication first. Like I'm going to do a token request. I say I need a token. I have this client ID. I have this credentials, because I already entered those on the Axiom side. Like I have those, right? I'm going to go to the server and I'm going to say I need access to these things. I need Azure AD logs, audit logs, SharePoint logs, audit general, and DLP. Like those will be the scopes. You will hear a lot about what are the scopes for the app. Like so, I request that token with those scopes, and Microsoft already knows, because when I created that app, I created those scopes. So I get a token. Now I have this is why this is a lot of places you see this token getting intercepted. Like we have seen those with the conditional access and evil proxy attacks, where they can intercept these tokens or like your cookies and those things. And whoever has a token, they can access that. That's why this is yeah, good to understand some of the background on this, right? But here, yeah, assuming, yeah, all the token, I get it, it's not getting intercepted and everything. I have the token now on XDR 360, and I do an API request, like say, I go to now Microsoft 365 where all the logs are and everything. I say I have a token, and these are the scopes. Give me those back. So I start getting back the logs and events. And generally, token has a duration, like it can be 1 day, 1 week, and when it is getting expired, you can refresh it. So I have some, like, I mean, if you want to just have a quick view of how this is going to happen, is that, yeah, so the client going to send a request to the OAuth is the client credentials and all those things, and I get a token back with the expiry time and everything. Then on every request in the HTTP header, I'm going to put in that token. Okay, I want this and give me this. So this is how it's all going to work until the total expiry happens. Before that, I can renew that token. So there's a standard way of doing that. Okay, so with this one, we covered a lot of the background. Now we can go into the some of the details about what is this Microsoft 365 Security Essentials is, right? So the type of things we are interested in, we want to have a 360-degree view of the Microsoft 365. What is really happening, like on email, SharePoint, and everything, basically, right? And how that is going to help us. I can detect insider threats like anomalous behaviors, because I'm getting every transaction, every activity is happening. I have access to that, and it's in XDR 360. I can run all my algorithms and everything, try to find that malicious insider activity. Yeah, compromised accounts, if they are brute force attacks or logins from locations where your users are not supposed to be there, you can detect those type of things. Like somebody maybe have access to the credentials, or maybe have at least a token, they intercepted the token, and so on. Malware, any malware, phishing email, other applications used. All the audit trail you are going to get it, data loss prevention activity, and everything you will need for any compliance as well. Like last time we discussed NIST and CIS controls, you will see, I mean, these all logs you are getting will also serve as evidence to do that compliance when you are going to do the audit. Like there will be, if you're doing HIPAA compliance, is going to ask like the same type of things, like you are monitoring this, like you are monitoring insider threats, privilege escalation, this, right? So this are the different purposes it is going to serve. And then there are details how you integrate that, but I think we can go into the XM console. So I'm over here. So this is how I'm going to do the integration. Like as you can see, I'm in XDR and Microsoft 365. I need those three things that we have been discussing, like for OAuth authentication. I need a tenant ID, a client ID, and client secret, right? And if we go in the let me see in the my Microsoft. So basically, you go to your Microsoft Azure portal, you will see there's a section on app registration. This is where I will register my client, like that OAuth client, like for the XDR. So I need three things for XCM, like the credentials, client ID, client secret, and tenant ID, those type of things. So this is where I'm going to create that. We can just call it XDR 360. It's very simple. Yeah, just this tenant, I don't need to do anything else. Just leave it like that. And so my app is created, like basically XDR 360. Yeah, we can add a secret to that because we need the credentials. So new client secret. And you can pick the duration. You can see 6 months or whatever you want to pick. So I did that. I have a client secret over here, right? So yeah, you can ignore the secret ID. Sometimes people think this is a client ID. This is not client ID. This is nothing. Basically, you almost never need that. The value is important. Like this, this is a client secret, and what was my tenant ID is over here. Like as you can say, my directory ID and client ID is really this ID. Yeah, I'm going to delete that later, like I'm in all this information, but for you, like you can see, like I created client secrets. I can copy these three things now, and I can put that back in Axiom. That's how this integration will be. But this will not give me any access. So I need certain permissions. Like I can add a permission, API permission. The type of things I need is the Microsoft 365 API. And I need the application permissions, not the delegated. The only thing I need is these two things, like activity feed read and activity feed read DLP. This basically give me, you see, I'm only getting read access. I'm not asking write access or anything, like as minimum as I need for the logs and events. I add these permissions, and many times we forget about giving the admin consent to that, as you say, not granted. So you just click over that, and I get yeah, that's all. Now I have the credentials you have seen, ID, and I can go back to Axiom now and enter those things like over here and update it. No, Axiom XDR 360. Yeah, I think, yeah, I would recommend that you do it for one of your test tenant. You will, it's a pretty straightforward process, but you will have some learning and later also explore the logs and events that we are going to cover, right? So I put in over here, then I'm going to request a token. I have the client ID and client secret over here. I'm going to request, XDR 360 is going to request that and pull the log data and all that, right? But for today, before we already did one tenant integration. So now you see I did integration in Microsoft 365 over here, but now I'm looking at the dashboards. this is where my activity is. But first we can go to the home, like because we are covering many things over here. So where is this Microsoft 365 activities? So this is my overall XDR 360 dashboards. So I'm going to go to Office 365. There's a section about that. So these are all my like. So this is not a very interesting tenant. Earlier I was reviewing with one of our partners, their client, about 75 employees, and they had like 350 phishing and malware. Like it was like 5 per user per day, like lot of the activity you see. I think that's the client is in the accounting business. A lot of these were like approve this invoice, this, like all like it's a kind of a somebody was blasting that client with all the phishing emails and everything. But everything was getting logged and alerted, so they were all good on that. But here there's nothing. This tenant we use for our internal, and not much going on over here. And but this is where you will see all the activity, and you will see users which IPs they are coming from. As I was said, the compromised accounts. In this case, I think for us, I'm in Dallas and some I think in San Jose. You can see even visually the activity, right? If I see something in, for example, Russia or anywhere where okay, I mean, why someone is trying to access my Microsoft 365 tenant from there, like I will immediately know about that. So this is where all the logs, even here, you see the audit exchange is coming, order general are coming, but not much activity. But you will see a lot more if you have a real like tenant using Microsoft 365. But this tenant is not as much used, so that's why but you see like you get a big view of all the activity being captured, and in the panel you can see more. You can dig deeper into like a user, like who is getting which type of alerts and so on, and the events. Same way you can search the events. You can explore those further because all the data is over here. So this is since we are doing a more demo, this is for human exploration, but the real idea is the machine XDR 365 is going to have 360 is going to have access to this data, it's analyzing and all that. Most of the time, this tenant like it's all about the exchange and email, and you can see those activities in detail, like what is happening. Like if you click on any activity, other one, yeah. Yeah, the type of things you see, like these, your app ID, like all the client ID type of things that we had, but then it's really like which folder, activity, and a user. Like you will see the user ID as well over here, like, and the whole idea is like those insider threats and so on. You can track all the activity there, and then at the end, again, this particular log or event, what different compliance standards it is meeting. Like as you can see, there's a HIPAA 164.312.b. There's a PCI DSS rule hitting 10.6.2, and the other things as you can see. Like so, this is where everything is coming back.